I sometimes get asked, what's the key to my success? And I think it would be fair to say it's not being worried if I look like an idiot. So if you want to understand people, unfortunately, I think you have to use fear as your main lens. Humans are strange things. I've been one for as long as I can remember, and I still struggle to understand their behavior on occasion. I've tried to understand the rules by which people operate, basically trying to work out the rules of the game for humans. After all, how can you win if you don't know the rules? Actually, I'm nothing like that Machiavellian, honestly, nor ambitious. I don't want to win. I don't even know what winning would mean, honestly. But I have thought that if I can understand the motivation of people, I might be able to make those in my personal and professional lives happier. And that seems like a pretty reasonable objective. There's much wisdom in the world about humanity. We are, it seems, our own favourite topic. That is, I guess, in and of itself, fairly instructive. Fear of failure is probably the single biggest motivator of people's behaviour. It's not very edifying to admit it, I guess, but it seems it's probably true. In fact, Jerry Seinfeld, I think, put it brilliantly. He once said, if it's true that most people are more afraid of public humiliation than they are of death, then most people would rather be in the box than give the eulogy at a funeral. Now, that statement's pretty hard to prove one way or the other, but certainly if you analyse how most people behave, it becomes painfully obvious that most of us spend our lives caught up in our own fear of failure. Many of the greatest humans of history either have personality types that make them immune to criticism, or they think differently from the average, and therefore their brain is simply wired in a different way. I'm going to use two examples here. You may have heard of both of them, I suspect, Winston Churchill and Steve Jobs. Now, Winston Churchill was actually a very sensitive soul who took criticism very badly. It really did hurt him. But he knew that if he was to get anything done, he had to harden himself to it. He believed very much in his own importance in history. In fact, as a boy of 9, he was asked what he would do with his life. His response was pretty incredible. He stated that England would face an existential threat and he would be the only one who could save it. Just think for a moment about that. A 9-year-old child in 1884 said he would be the one to save a nation. It's pretty impressive. Now, there's no doubt he believed it then and continued to believe it throughout his life. He believed in his destiny. Nothing could shake that. Even though he felt the pain of rejection, he did it anyway. I genuinely think that's the very definition of bravery. Now, Steve Jobs, very different character to Churchill. Jobs did the right thing because he believed in himself. His own sense of self-worth was so great that the ideas and opinions of others were simply irrelevant to Jobs. Jobs was undoubtedly a great designer, but I think it's fair to say he was no Churchill. Not many people are. Anyway, having observed tens of thousands of people over the years, I would contend that the single biggest fear of people, the thing that holds the vast majority back from happiness, is that they are afraid. Fear of asking for the promotion, fear of starting a business, fear of failure. I think that controls so much of most people's lives, even if they don't necessarily recognize that in themselves. Almost every motivational speaker in history trots out lines about not getting 100% of the deals you don't ask for, taking the road less trodden. It's really all a cliche, frankly, but it's also true. And people's fears define their actions. Even in something as simple as video conferencing, for example, I see the fear of screwing up. I mean, I've spent 30 years in this business telling thousands of people that the latest product is intuitive, that they shouldn't worry that it's easy this time. Now, the look of fear and loathing in their faces really does give it away. They don't believe me. It's not simple. It's frightening. And it really is frightening for many people. If they press the wrong button, the building will burn down and they'll find themselves naked in the parking lot, being laughed at by 1,000 colleagues. Now, I do want to point out that almost never happens, but it doesn't stop people thinking it will. So, over 30 years ago, I met the most honest client ever. This lady told me that the only user interface her users would be happy with would be a single button. And the word call could be written on it in big friendly letters. I was puzzled. What about knowing whom to dial or moving the camera or changing the volume? But none of that actually mattered to this client. With only a small percentage of meeting room spaces equipped with video, even after 25 years of trying, and the looks of horror around every user interface in a video conferencing room, I have to bow to this lady and actually admit she was right. Now, I guess in my own small way, I've had a successful career. I've certainly done an awful lot better than I was predicted to do when I was young. People have often asked me what the secret to my own success has been. And I think it's simply that I just don't have a fear of looking stupid. Maybe you have personal experience of me looking stupid and me not really caring about that. I don't think it's bravery, though, like Churchill, who was scared but did it anyway. And it's not like Jobs, who simply had a mountain of self-belief. I think my own modest success has simply been that my curiosity to find out more beats my fear to sit quietly within the status quo. The fear filter seems to be missing. It's overwhelmed by my desire to know more, I suppose. Now, I'm no Tony Robbins here or motivational speaker, but if I can impart any wisdom, it's to not worry about what other people think. Let them stew in their own fears. Speak up, ask questions, point at the emperor with no clothes, make a noise, have something to say. It's always better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission, in my opinion. Always press that button, always be curious. Let that curiosity overwhelm your fears. I don't know, it seems to have worked for me. Now, look, I found myself upsetting the apple cart, well, for over 50 years now, and not once have I found myself naked in a parking lot next to a smouldering building.